Marvel's Phase 5 is finally here. Does it learn from the mistakes of Phase 4, or are we off to a rocky start? Hey movie fans, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the official launch of Marvel's Phase 5. Now, I, like a lot of other movie fans, was not necessarily the biggest fan of Phase 4. I think there's a lot of good in there. Spider-Man No Way Home is one of my favorite, if not my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. Shang-Chi is outstanding, but Marvel began to show its weakness of they were very spotty. There's a lot of great, but a lot of questionable choices as they just inundated us with so much content, but a lot of that content just seemed to be setting up further content down the road, whether it was more movies or TV shows. We were more willing to forgive them because okay, after Endgame, we got to reset the table, reset the playing board, introduce us to some new characters. Well, we're back to characters that we're familiar with the Ant-Man family for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania officially marking the start of Phase 5. Do we get back more on track to the Marvel that we know and love, or have some of the issues that we had for Phase 4 bled into the new Ant-Man movie? Unfortunately, for me personally, it's the second option. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is by no means a bad movie, but when I'm coming out of the theater and my first thought was, well, at least it's not Thor Love and Thunder, I think we have a bigger issue at hand here. So I'm going to talk about some of the positives and some of the negatives, and I'll try to come back to the positives at the end of it. But as a whole, this it's fine, but I'm just getting tired of Marvel, if that makes sense. But let's get into it, because there is some positives here. Paul Rudd is as charming as ever. Paul Rudd can do no wrong. He's just so likable and endearing, but we don't get enough of him. But we're sticking with the positives for now. The bits that we do get with Scott Lang as Ant-Man is great. Michelle Pfeiffer is great as Janet. Everyone else is fine, but we'll talk more about them in the negatives here. I really like the world that gets set up in Quantumania. It's no spoiler, everyone gets sucked into the quantum realm. I like that this vibe of the entire movie is very much like a journey to the center of the earth, or an old sci-fi pulpy novel of very beings from another universe. I like that type of stuff. I still defend John Carter as one of Disney's biggest blunders marketing wise, and I still really enjoy John Carter and like the aesthetic of like a Treasure Planet. I like that weird, trippy sci-fi at times. I think this is very clever and unique from an aesthetic standpoint. The creature design, the costume design, it all looks super cool. But it just doesn't all come together. So we'll talk about some of the negatives here. I don't think this story is paced particularly well. I rewatched the first Ant-Man before this because it had been so long since I'd seen either of the Ant-Man movies. Just because they're not necessarily my favorite. They're fine, but they're not ever going to be my favorite MCU movies. The first Ant-Man has a lot of the same issues as this Ant-Man movie does. It's very back-end heavy in terms of all the action and development that happens in the movie just happens at the end, and you just kind of have to sit through the first 2/3. This, the same thing. A lot of the action is in this big, long set piece at the end, which is fine, but it's not necessarily the most engaging story throughout. It's a very messy and not necessarily the most engaging story. It's very also bad from a pacing perspective of you get these action set pieces from time to time, or you get characters that are doing a specific task, but then they'll almost look directly at the camera, call a timeout so they can give a 10 to 15 minute exposition dump on a specific character. Now, without delving too much into spoilers, Kang is the main villain of this movie, and he does a phenomenal job. But so much of this movie isn't making this Ant-Man 3 so much as this is Kang .5. It's not Kang's first movie, it's like his prequel movie type of thing. And in terms of building up the mystique and the aura of Kang the Conqueror, it does a great job. But at the expense of literally everyone else in the cast, I think. Because Marvel really wants to get in your head that Kang is the new Thanos, Kang is the new Thanos, Kang is the new Thanos. And Kang that we get in this is great. But I wanted more Ant-Man, and that's a big negative here is for a third Ant-Man movie, he kind of plays second fiddle, as does the rest of the Ant family. Like, Janet is great in the limited pieces that she's given. Wasp and Hank really are just non-existent. It's gonna sound mean, but in one of the bigger miscastings in recent Marvel memory, Cassie is just kind of there. Normally, Marvel's casting department is excellent, except for the rare Edward Norton type of situation. So I was excited when Catherine Newton, who I really enjoy from a movie called Freaky, where she switched bodies with Vince Vaughn as a slasher, is fun. I was really excited when she got announced to be the new Cassie. I was kind of wondering why we couldn't just keep the old actress that was in Endgame, but okay. Within 10 to 15 minutes, I was not a fan of the direction they were taking Cassie, and I couldn't tell if it was so much the performance that Catherine Newton was giving, her delivery on some of the quote-unquote jokes. Again, we have that Marvel problem of swing at every joke possibility, whether you think it'll hit or not. Granted, these jokes hit more than Love and Thunder does, but it's not as funny as the movie thinks it is. Cassie was not a good character for me. I just didn't know what it was. It just did not connect, but a lot of the story rests on her shoulders, and I don't know if she was up to the task. Maybe with more goes at it, she'll get more acclimated. Maybe it was the script. I'm not entirely sure, which makes me a little nervous for the future of the MCU, because the writer of this is the guy also writing Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, and I don't think this movie was particularly written well. There's things that needed explanation that don't get explained, or things that don't need an explanation to get overly explained. This is not a bad movie, but I have already forgotten a good chunk of this, and that's not a good thing when this is like supposed to be setting the stage up for your big huge bad guy that is Kang. Which, circling back to some positives, the biggest and most praiseworthy thing I could say about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang. He is absolutely crushing it. I kind of got, in certain sequences, a vibe of Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan from Star Trek Into Darkness, of a all-powerful being that is in complete control of any given situation, but will destroy you if you piss them off. Like, they're not quite the same, but I saw some similarities in that. He is such a phenomenal actor, and he just elevates all the material that he's in. I think he does a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I just wish that the rest of the movie didn't have to suffer so that this one character could shine. I get that he's the future, but it's like, for my wrestling fans out there, they're so insistent of putting him over, of making Kang look strong. I'm not saying the rest of the characters are weak, but they're so underwritten and underdeveloped that everything else has to suffer. There's certain story arcs that seem like they're being set up at the beginning of this, it seems like Scott's got a story arc that he might be following, or Cassie might have a storyline that she might be following. But then once we go to the quantum realm, that gets thrown out the window, and people don't really have an overall arc or a narrative that they're following. And also, just a quick aside, MODOK's in this, if you saw him in the trailers. If you're a MODOK fan, don't get your hopes up. This is... oh boy. Again, it's not like Love and Thunder in terms of no jokes land, but boy, they try some jokes that repeatedly just do not land. This movie is not bad by any stretch, but it was not the start of Phase 5 that we were all kind of hoping for. And as we got to the final fight, and it's just big, epic, large-scale battle, I was just starting to feel a little burnt out of Marvel. I kind of miss your simplistic stories, or just more cohesive stories. That's why I love Shang-Chi so much. Yeah, there's a big, huge battle at the end of that, but it was still a very personal tale that you could have told. And the trailers for this made it seem like it was that. It's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's a movie. It's fine. It's better than Love and Thunder is really all I could walk away with it. But I'm looking forward to the future of Kang, so mission accomplished, I guess, there, Marvel. Well, what do you guys think? Are you a little more positive about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania than I am, or do you dislike it even more than I did? Do you think I'm giving it too much credit? Let me know down in the comments below. I always like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but also subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast for the Uncharted Media podcasts, and help us get to 1,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel, because that's our big goal. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.